You know what fascinates me about retirement? It's not just the numbers. It's not even the strategy. It's the fact that one of the most important financial decisions you'll ever make doesn't feel like a decision at all until suddenly it is. You wake up one day, look at your accounts, look at your life, and realize you've been running a race without ever knowing which lane you were in. And that's the part nobody warns you about. Before we continue, if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, this would be a really good time to do it. I've got a lot more of these waiting for you. The real question isn't how much money you have. It's what level of retirement you're actually standing on, because there are 6 of them. 6 distinct levels most people never hear about, never get told about, and never measure themselves against. And once you see them clearly, you'll understand exactly where you stand, why you feel the way you feel, and what you need to do next. Here's the thing about retirement levels. They aren't about being rich or poor. They aren't about having $1 million or 40,000. They're about something deeper. They're about certainty. They're about how much of your life is protected from the things you can't control. The market, inflation, a health scare, a long life, a short one. Every level represents a different relationship with your own future. And most people, if we're being honest, are floating somewhere between levels without even knowing it. They feel behind, but they can't explain why. They feel okay, but they can't explain that either. It's a fog, and today we're going to lift that fog. Let me start with something most financial advisors won't tell you directly. Retirement isn't a finish line, it's a floor. And the strength of that floor determines everything else. The furniture you put on top of it, the decorations, the extras, none of that matters if the floor is cracked. And yet, most people spend their entire working lives decorating the floor without ever checking to see if it can hold their weight. So let's talk about the 6 levels. And as I walk you through each one, I want you to be honest with yourself. Not the version of yourself you show at family dinners, the real one. The one who wonders at 2 in the morning whether it's all going to work out. The first level is what I call survival. This is the level where every single month is a math problem, where Social Security is the only thing coming in, where there's no pension, no meaningful savings, no cushion. People at this level aren't lazy. They aren't irresponsible. Most of them worked their entire lives doing everything they were told to do. But life happened. A medical bill, a divorce, a child who needed help, a layoff at 58 that they never fully recovered from. And now, retirement isn't a chapter of freedom. It's a chapter of careful counting. At this level, people know exactly what a gallon of milk costs. They know which day of the month the check arrives. They know which bills get paid first and which ones get pushed. And here's what breaks my heart about it. Many of them still feel guilty. They feel like they failed, but they didn't fail. The system failed to prepare them. And if you're watching this and you're at this level, I want you to hear me clearly. You are not a failure. You are a survivor. And there are still moves you can make. The second level is what I call stability. This is where the basics are covered, but there's not much room for anything else. Social Security is coming in, maybe a small pension, maybe a modest amount saved. The lights stay on, the mortgage or rent gets paid. Food is on the table, but vacations? Rare. New car? Not happening. Helping the grandkids with college? A dream, not a plan. People at this level often feel a strange mix of gratitude and quiet frustration. Gratitude because they know it could be worse. Frustration because they thought retirement would feel a little more free than this. They're not struggling, but they're not soaring either. They're just steady. And steady is underrated in a world that told them they needed to be rich. Steady means the foundation is holding. Steady means the walls aren't shaking. Steady is more than most people realize. Here's a question. If you had to choose between more money or more certainty, which would it be? Keep that in your head as we go. Because as we climb these levels, you'll notice something interesting. The higher levels aren't just about more zeros in an account. They're about layers of protection. The third level is what I call comfort. And this is where things start to shift. At this level, the income floor is strong. Social Security is there. There's often a pension or an annuity providing predictable monthly income. Savings exist, and they're being used strategically, not desperately. There's room in the budget for the things that make life feel like life. Dinners out, a trip once or twice a year, a hobby that costs a little money, gifts for the grandkids without doing mental math for 3 days first. Let me tell you about someone at this level. Let's meet 2 people. The first one, let's call him Frank. Frank is 67. He spent over 3 decades working a steady, dependable job. Nothing flashy, no big windfalls, just consistency. If you saw him walking down the street, you wouldn't think, there goes someone financially secure. You might actually think the opposite. Frank lives in a modest home. He drives an older car. And if you looked strictly at his savings, you'd probably panic for him, because Frank has around $140,000 saved. By the standards you've been taught, Frank is behind. But here's what you don't see when you only look at that number. Frank has a monthly pension. He has Social Security income. His home is fully paid off. Every single month, without touching his savings, money shows up, consistently, predictably. Frank is not struggling. Frank is not stressed. Frank is living a life that works. Frank is sitting comfortably at level 3, and he doesn't even know it, because everyone keeps telling him he should have more saved. Now let's meet Gary. Gary did everything right, at least according to the rules he was given. He saved aggressively. He invested diligently. He followed the benchmarks. And today, Gary has $800,000 saved. On paper, Gary is a success story. But Gary doesn't feel like one. Gary still has a mortgage. Gary doesn't have a pension. Gary relies heavily on his investment account to fund his life. Every market fluctuation feels personal. Gary has more money than Frank, but less peace. Let that sink in. Gary has almost 6 times more saved than Frank, but Frank sleeps better. Frank spends more freely. Frank enjoys his retirement more, because it's not about who has more saved. It's about who has more certainty. The 4th level is what I call security. And this is where retirement starts to feel like the version people dream about. At this level, there's a strong income floor covering essential expenses, and there's a healthy savings cushion covering everything beyond that. If the market drops, life doesn't change. If inflation creeps up, there's room to absorb it. If a health issue appears, there's a plan for it. This is the level where retirement stops feeling fragile. Think of your benefit like a faucet. Behind that faucet is a pipe, one you've been filling your entire working life. Every paycheck, every tax contribution, it all builds pressure in that pipe. Now here's how it works. The longer you wait to turn the faucet on, the stronger the pressure becomes. Wait until 70, the flow is powerful. Turn it on at 62, the flow is lighter. But here's the part most people don't think about. That faucet belongs to you. You paid into it. And if you wait too long to turn it on, some of that water never reaches you. It just stays in the pipe, unused, gone. At level 4, people have thought carefully about that faucet. They've considered when to turn it on. They've weighed their health, their spouse, their other income, their goals. They didn't just default to the earliest age out of fear, and they didn't blindly wait until 70 just because someone on the internet told them to. They made a choice, a real one, based on their life. What do you think? Are most people actually behind on retirement? Or are they just measuring it wrong? I'll tell you what I see. Most people are measuring it wrong. They're staring at account balances and ignoring cash flow. They're comparing themselves to strangers on the internet instead of looking at their own life. They're chasing a sticker price instead of asking what the car actually costs. Speaking of sticker prices, let me paint you a picture. Imagine walking onto a car lot. Every vehicle has a sticker price, bold, official, intimidating. It looks final, non-negotiable. But if you've ever bought a car, you already know the truth. Nobody pays the sticker. There are hidden discounts, dealer incentives, timing advantages, negotiation room. The real price is almost always lower, but the sticker exists to anchor your expectations, to make you feel like anything below it is a win, even if you're still overpaying. Now take that exact same system and apply it to retirement. That $1.4 million number you keep hearing, that's your sticker price. It's designed to anchor you. It's designed to make you feel behind. It's designed to keep you saving, keep you worried, keep you working, but it's not the real number. Your real number is smaller, more personal, and completely dependent on your life. The 5th level is what I call freedom. This is where money stops being the main character in your life. It's still there, still important, still respected, but it's no longer the thing you think about first thing in the morning. At this level, the income floor doesn't just cover essentials. It covers your lifestyle, all of it. Travel, hobbies, gifts, generosity, spontaneity, and the savings on top of that aren't there for survival. They're there for options. People at this level have something rare. They have the ability to say no. No to jobs they don't want. No to obligations that drain them. No to timelines other people try to impose on them. And they have the ability to say yes. Yes to a spontaneous trip. Yes to helping a grandchild. Yes to a new adventure they never had time for while they were working. I want you to imagine your retirement in 2 parts. Not one big number, 2 distinct piles. Pile 1, income that shows up no matter what. This includes things like Social Security, pensions, rental income, money that continues whether the market is up or down. Pile 2, your savings, your investments, your accounts. Now here's the critical mistake most people make. They focus almost entirely on Pile 2 while barely acknowledging Pile 1. And yet Pile 1 is often doing far more heavy lifting than people realize. At level 5, both piles are strong. Pile 1 covers the life. Pile 2 covers the dreams. And that combination creates something you can't buy directly. It creates peace. Quick pause. Have you ever felt guilty about spending money in retirement? That feeling shows up more than you think. Even people at level 5 feel it. They saved for 40 years. They trained their brain to protect every dollar. And then retirement arrives and someone tells them to spend it, and their nervous system doesn't know how. That's a real thing. That's not weakness. That's decades of conditioning, and it takes intention to unwind it. The 6th level is what I call legacy. This is the highest level, and it's not just about having more money. It's about having more purpose with your money. At this level, your income covers your life, your savings cover your dreams, and there's still enough left over that you get to think about the generations after you. You get to think about the causes you care about. You get to think about the impact you want to leave behind. Legacy doesn't require millions. That's a myth. Legacy is about intention. A grandparent who pays for one grandchild's first year of college is leaving a legacy. A retiree who donates monthly to a food bank is leaving a legacy. A couple who leaves their paid-off home to their children is leaving a legacy. Legacy is not measured in dollars. It's measured in the ripple. But there's a version of legacy that involves real wealth transfer, and at this level, it's planned carefully. Trusts, beneficiaries, tax strategy, charitable giving. Not because they're trying to hoard, but because they've built something worth passing on, and they want it to actually reach the people they love, not get eaten by taxes and mistakes along the way. Now here's where I want you to pause and be honest with yourself. Which level are you actually on? Not which one you want to be on, not which one you're pretending to be on when relatives ask. Which one, right now, today, are you standing on? Because that answer is the starting point for everything that comes next. And here's something you need to hear. You are not behind. In fact, you may already be standing on one of the strongest financial foundations available today. You may already have what people with millions are searching for. Because if you have predictable income, if you have peace, if you have clarity about your life, you have something Gary would trade a chunk of his $800,000 for. Certainty. Let me ask you something. Do you know what your monthly income will actually look like when you retire? Be honest with yourself. Most people can't answer that question. They can tell you their account balance, but not their monthly income. And that's the exact backwards way we've been trained to think about retirement. Because in retirement, monthly income is the currency. Account balance is just potential energy. Monthly income is kinetic. It's what actually moves your life. Let me talk about the thing nobody wants to talk about. The silent eroder, inflation. It doesn't scream, it doesn't crash, it doesn't make headlines the way a market drop does. It just quietly, invisibly, steadily raises the cost of your life. A loaf of bread costs more this year than last year. A gallon of gas. A doctor's visit, a prescription, property taxes, it all creeps up. And if your income doesn't creep up with it, you slowly move down the levels without even noticing. That's why Social Security has something called a cost of living adjustment. It's meant to help your benefit keep pace with inflation. And it does help. But here's the honest truth. It doesn't always keep up perfectly. Some years the adjustment feels generous. Other years it doesn't. And over a 20 or 30-year retirement, those gaps add up. So the level you're on today isn't necessarily the level you'll be on in 15 years, unless you plan for the silent pressure that keeps pushing on your income. The other thing that quietly moves people down the levels is expense underestimation. Most people underestimate their real retirement expenses by a lot. They think they'll spend less because they're not commuting, not buying work clothes, not paying for lunch out. And some of that is true, but they don't account for the new expenses. More time at home means more utilities. More free time means more hobbies, more meals out with friends, more travel, more gifts. Healthcare costs almost always go up, not down. And home maintenance, the kind of stuff a homeowner in their 60s starts running into, that adds up faster than anyone expects. Here's something to think about. If you found out today that you're actually on track, how would that change your week? Would you sleep better tonight? Would you argue less with your spouse about money? Would you finally book that trip you keep pushing off? Sometimes just knowing where you stand is the biggest gift you can give yourself, because uncertainty is heavier than bad news. bad news you can plan around. Uncertainty just sits on your chest. Let me talk about the survivor scenario because this is one people avoid until it's too late. If you're married, one of you is likely going to outlive the other. That's just math. And when that happens, the household income changes. Usually, the smaller Social Security benefit goes away. Sometimes pensions reduce or disappear, depending on the option that was chosen years ago. Expenses don't drop in half just because one person is gone. Property taxes stay the same. Utilities barely change. Healthcare for the surviving spouse can actually go up. I want to ask you, have you and your spouse ever actually talked about what happens if one of you is gone? Not in a morbid way, in a practical, protective way, because the level you're standing on together might be very different from the level the surviving spouse ends up on alone. And planning for that isn't pessimism, it's love. It's making sure the person you leave behind still has a floor to stand on. Now let me talk about something called sequence of returns risk. Don't let the fancy name scare you. Here's what it means in plain English. If the market drops badly right when you start retirement, and you're pulling money out during that drop, your savings can shrink much faster than you'd expect. Two people can have the same amount saved, the same withdrawal rate, the same average return over 30 years, and one runs out of money while the other has plenty left. The only difference? When the bad years happened. This is why the income floor matters so much. If you have strong, guaranteed income covering your essentials, you don't have to sell investments in a down market to pay your bills. You can let the accounts recover. You can be patient. But if you have no floor, if you're relying entirely on your investment account to pay your rent, your food, your electricity, then a bad market at the wrong time can force you into decisions that permanently damage your retirement. Think of it this way. Your income floor is like the foundation of your house, strong, underground, invisible, but holding everything up. Your savings? That's more like the furniture. Nice to have, comfortable, but it sits on top of something else. Most people focus on decorating the furniture while ignoring whether the foundation is solid. And when the storm comes, and storms always come, the furniture doesn't save the house. The foundation does. Here's something I want you to hear clearly. It's not pessimism, it's realism. And in this case, realism isn't negative, it's empowering. Because when you see the real picture, when you see the levels, when you see where you actually stand, you stop making decisions based on fear. You start making decisions based on facts. Let me tell you a quick story about the Social Security calculator. There used to be a specific calculator on the Social Security website that showed people what their benefits would look like at different claiming ages. It was helpful, but it also confused a lot of people. They'd plug in numbers, get a result, misunderstand it, and make claiming decisions based on incorrect assumptions. Eventually, the agency changed how they presented that information because too many people were using it incorrectly and making irreversible choices. Think about that. A whole piece of a government website changed because people were making one of the biggest financial decisions of their lives based on numbers they didn't fully understand, and nobody sent them a warning label. That's why understanding the levels matters. Because the claiming age question isn't just a math question, it's a life question. Do you need the money now? Are you healthy? Are you married? What's your spouse's benefit? What's your income floor without Social Security? What's your family history of longevity? All of those matter more than the simple, should I take it at 62 or 70 debate you see online. Here's a question for the married folks. Have you and your spouse ever actually calculated what your combined income would look like at each claiming age? Not guessed. Actually calculated. Because for a lot of couples, one spouse claiming early and the other claiming late is a strategy that provides both immediate income and long-term protection. But nobody tells them that. They just hear the general rule and apply it to a life that has nothing to do with the general rule. Let me pause here and say something important. Numbers matter, but how you feel about those numbers, that matters just as much. I've seen people with modest savings live with total peace because they understood their income, their expenses, and their plan. And I've seen people with millions live in constant anxiety because they never actually did the math. They just kept saving, kept accumulating, kept worrying, but never sat down and asked, what does my actual life cost? And does my plan cover it? The question isn't, what's the best age to retire? It's what's the best decision for your life right now. And that's the shift that changes everything. You stop measuring yourself against everyone else. You stop feeling behind, and you start focusing on what truly gives you freedom. So here's what I want you to do. First, figure out your income floor. What money is coming in every month, no matter what? Social Security, pensions, anything stable and predictable. That number matters more than you've been told. Second, calculate your real expenses. Not based on your current salary, based on your actual life. Housing, food, healthcare, travel, the things you truly care about. Because retirement isn't about replacing income, it's about supporting your lifestyle. Third, find the gap. What's the difference between your income and your expenses? That gap is what your savings need to cover, not 1.4 million, not some generic benchmark, just the gap. And once you see that, the entire conversation changes, because now you're not chasing a sticker price, you're solving a real equation. Fourth, plan for the pressure. Inflation, longevity, healthcare, all of them push on your plan over time. Your plan needs to push back. Whether that's through cost of living adjustments in your income sources, or growth in your investments, or a buffer built into your savings, something in your plan needs to be designed to keep up with a life that keeps getting more expensive. And fifth, plan for the person left behind. If you're part of a couple, think through the survivor scenario now, while you're both here to make decisions together. What income continues, what income stops, what expenses drop, and which ones don't. The kindest thing you can do for the person you love is to make sure the level they end up on alone is still one they can live comfortably on. Let me ask you this. If you could go back 10 years, what would you do differently with your retirement planning? Most people say the same thing. They say they wish they had focused less on the account balance and more on the income. They say they wish they'd asked better questions earlier. They say they wish they'd stopped comparing themselves to other people. And here's the good news. You don't need to go back 10 years. You just need to start today. Right now, from wherever you are. You don't need perfection to have a successful retirement. You need clarity. You need to know your income floor. You need to know your real expenses. You need to know the gap. And you need to know which level you're on so you can either protect it or climb it. If you're at level 1, survival, there are still moves to make. Housing decisions, spending decisions, benefit optimization. Small changes can create real breathing room. If you're at level 2, stability, protecting what you have is often more important than chasing more. Guard against inflation. Guard against unnecessary risk. Steady is a foundation you can build on. If you're at level 3, comfort, the goal is to make sure that comfort lasts. Because comfort today doesn't guarantee comfort in 15 years. Inflation is patient. Health issues arrive. Plans need review. If you're at level 4, security, you have earned something rare. Now the work becomes maintenance and optimization. Are you drawing income in the most tax-efficient way? Are your accounts structured to survive a bad market? Is your plan tested against a long life, not just an average one? If you're at level 5, freedom, the biggest challenge is often internal. It's letting yourself actually enjoy what you built. It's giving yourself permission to spend, to travel, to live. Because a lifetime of saving creates habits that don't automatically shut off just because retirement started. And if you're at level 6, legacy, the question becomes, how do I make sure this gets where I want it to go? Because at that level, planning isn't just about you anymore. It's about the ripple. Wherever you are, hear me on this. You are not behind. You are exactly where the choices of your past have placed you, and the choices of your future can still move you. That's the beautiful thing about levels. They're not permanent. They're not a sentence. They're a snapshot, and snapshots can change. Retirement isn't the end of something. It's the beginning of something new. A new rhythm, a new pace, a new way of living. And the goal isn't just to survive it. The goal is to enjoy it, to wake up without financial stress, to make decisions without fear, to live with confidence, not hesitation, to look at your income and know it covers your life, to look at your savings and know they support your dreams, to look at the years ahead and see possibility, not panic. The system will always try to tell you that you don't have enough, that you need more, that you're behind. That's how the system stays fed, but you don't have to play that game. You can step off the treadmill. You can define your own numbers. You can build your own floor. You can choose your own level, and then you can choose to protect it or climb it on your own terms. If the system only rewards you with almost enough, you will spend your entire life chasing more. But if you understand your numbers, if you build your income, if you define your life on your terms, you don't chase anymore. You decide, and that's the shift from fear to clarity, from chasing to choosing, from not enough to enough. So take a breath. Look at the 6 levels honestly, find yours, and then take the next real step, not the next panicked one. Because retirement at its best isn't about how much you have. It's about how well you understand what you have, how carefully you protect it, and how bravely you use it to build the life you actually want. If this video made you think differently about your retirement, subscribe. The next one goes even deeper.